Well, the leaders of the Wildrose and Progressive Conservative parties made a historic move this week, reaching a tentative deal to merge the two. The move transforms the political landscape in this province. Joining us now, Wildrose and official opposition leader Brian Jean. Really appreciate the time coming in, because I know it has been an incredible, certainly 48 hours leading up to that big announcement yesterday around 1 o'clock. Talk about the last few weeks and getting down to the nitty-gritty. How difficult of a process was this?
It wasn't difficult at all. It was about making sure that Albertans were first, and we put aside our egos. We got to the point where we needed to negotiate some items that were particularly important, for instance, to my membership. There were some things over the last 4 months during our consultation process where I spoke to almost 10,000 members. They weren't prepared to give up, and they weren't prepared to concede on. So I was very happy to see that I was able to keep all the promises I made to the Wildrose in relation to principles and those founding things that are so important to them.
How surreal, if that's the right word, is this experience coming where you were just 2 years ago, coming from a Wildrose party that seemed to be slightly beaten up, and you resurge back into a huge state of opposition, and now you're in a position where you're merging with the PCs who you beat up on in that election. Is it a bizarre experience you're going through?
Not at all. I think if we make sure that we focus on what's important, that Albertans need to be in control of the political process going forward, we'll be able to work together. The legal framework of Wildrose is just fantastic. I mean, we're governed by the Societies Act of Alberta. It takes 75% of our members to agree or disagree on whether our Constitution is correct, our policies are correct, and every year they get the opportunity to change them or to modify them or keep them the same, and I think that's amazing. That's why I like the Wildrose and the Legal Foundation so much, and that's why we use that framework. If people want to participate in Unity, they need to buy Wildrose membership. It takes 75%. That's the threshold in Wildrose. That's why we need all the support of all Albertans that believe in Unity to buy membership, get involved. And on July 22nd, which we believe is going to be the date, they come out and support Unity, and then they can choose as well, for that same $10 for that membership, they can choose the leader of their choice in October, late October of this year.
Is there a concern that it can be, I think Albertans are pretty politically aware. I think it's a pretty astute province, yet still politics.
More so today than ever,
I would say so, and certainly over the last couple of years. However, politics still is something sometimes that happens over here, and it can be an inside baseball thing. We're talking about it, but for some people, like, yeah, they kind of know what's going on, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they get on board, but maybe right now, So does it get a little confusing? Add another party name. Now here's Mr. Jean, here's Mr. Kenney. What's going on? Are you worried that people might not fully understand what's going on?
I think the important thing that you hit on here is these are real things that happen here with real issues and real consequences to real Albertans. This is not about all these other little processes that we have to figure out and decide how to move forward. This is about Albertans and real people. This weekend, for instance, people are going to be going and wanting to camp and go spend some time with their family and of course, their children. People have less money in their pockets. The debt that we're going to have, $71 billion, $2.3 billion a year in interest. That means $1,800 out of every family's pockets here in Alberta. Those are real consequences. The carbon tax, another $2,500 out of people's pockets. Every family in Alberta. Real consequences, real people. That's what it's about. It's not about all this other stuff.
And the two parties have this tentative agreement. I know still has to be approved, but it seems to have come together pretty reasonably, and doesn't seem to be a lot of blood on the floor. Everything came out pretty nice yesterday in the news conference. Yet you have to get down to the grit of it, which is you and Mr. Kenney so far, the two names taking on to be the leader of that. How do you define yourself going forward as being different than Jason Kenney? Why should people look to Brian Jean?
I'm going to let Jason Kenney talk and speak for himself, but I'll tell you, I'm an Albertan. I love Alberta. I've been a businessman in Alberta. I've owned and operated businesses here in Alberta for over 35 years, 15 different businesses. I've been a lawyer for 25 years, a litigator here in northern Alberta, and more importantly, I'm a family man, and I love Alberta so much. So I think I have a lot to offer, especially given that I have political experience both at the federal level for 10 years as a politician, making sure we pass some good laws for the Economic Action Plan and other movements that we've done over the 10 years previous, and of course I've been the leader of the opposition now for 2 years and an MLA. So I believe I have a lot of experience both politically and at the federal and provincial levels as a business operator and as a lawyer, and more importantly than anything, I'm a real Albertan. I love Alberta, and I'll stand up and fight for Albertans every single day. I love Calgary. I love Edmonton. I think we just live in the greatest place in the world, and we need somebody that's going to stand up and protect our values. Calgary values, Edmonton values, and when we have a Prime Minister that takes away the National Energy Board from Calgary, which makes so much sense to have it here, we have to fight against that. When they try to impose a carbon tax, we have to fight against that. We have to make sure that Albertans have more money in their jeans and they get more freedoms to decide their quality of life and what they want to pursue.
I think it's interesting because in the last election, when the NDP surged into power with the majority, it seemed like there are people who voted for that party who aren't necessarily NDPers. I believe that party would argue differently, but I believe that's the case. People were looking for something different. They weren't necessarily comfortable going in on the Wildrose. They knew they didn't want to be the PCs. How does a new Conservative Party bring over maybe people who felt like they didn't necessarily belong in the Wildrose tent, comfortable to vote the NDP to see what would happen, but are like, I need a home? Is there a home for everyone in the new Conservative Party, or is it going to be even further right of center?
Well, Scott, you hit on something interesting. A lot of people didn't know me in the last election. That's what happens when they call it after only being leader for 9 days. It was quite the thing. But what I would ask Albertans to do, Calgarians to do, is come out to my events. I have a lot of events. Get to know me. Ask me questions. Yes, and the tough questions. I'll answer them all. And, you know, you may not like what you hear, but I believe the majority will like what they hear.
Those who keep progressives in their name, do they have a home?
Absolutely. This is about standing up for Albertans. It's not about being ideological left or ideological right. It's about making practical, common sense decisions in the best interest of the people at the time that you make those decisions. And that means keep more money in their jeans, make sure they have those great public services that we like so much here in Alberta, but also make sure that they give good return on investment to the people.
Leader of the Opposition and leader of the Wildrose Party, Brian Jean, always appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, sir.